We are sitting in Run of Kutch, and we're sitting at none other place than the Bsn War Memorial in the Run of Kutch. It's a beautiful location, of course, Run of Kutch being world famous, but this memorial which is right behind me is an absolutely poignant tribute to the martyrs of the country, the martyrs of the 1971 war. But remember, the Run of Kutch is also extremely significant when it comes to India's borders, because this place is where the genesis of India's border security force took place, way back in 1965. In the run-up to the 1965 war with Pakistan, it is here in Run of Kutch that one of Pakistan's misadventures were rebutted by the Indian forces. And that's when India felt that it needed a specialized defense force, security force for the borders, and thus was birthed the Border Security Force. So I want to begin first up by paying our homage to India's martyrs and the Jawans who protect India's borders, which is the Jawans of the Border Security Force. In fact, many of them are joining us in our audience today. I want a big round of applause for the Jawans who are here. And I'll tell you why they're here, and I'll tell you why it is special that we are interacting with our Jawans today as we kickstart our Netra Suraksha campaign. But first up, how about a cheer for the Indian Security Forces, for the BSF. So I'm going to say Jai Hind, and everybody's going to say Jai Hind with me, right? All the Jawans and all the audiences. Jai Hind! Jai Hind! Jai Hind! Jai Hind! All right, with that energy bump, I want to introduce our aim here as far as this campaign is concerned. Now remember, just as the Border Security Force mans our borders and protects us with their watchful eyes, we want to protect the vision of not just our Jawans, but also their families. And therefore, this time around, we're taking the message of diabetes, retinopathy to the defense forces and their families. And that's why we are here at the Bsn War Memorial in the Run of Kutch. Remember, India is home to as many as 70 million diabetic patients. And every one of them is at risk for diabetes, retinopathy, which eventually impacts your vision and leads to blindness. We want to prevent that. What are the challenges in that? And what you need to do? What does the medical community need to do? All of that will be discussed in just a bit from now. But first up, I want to introduce our esteemed guests. I want to begin with our chief guest today, Srimati Dr. Neemaben Acharya, Honorable Speaker of the Gujarat Legislative Assembly, the first woman Speaker of the Gujarat Legislative Assembly, and of course, a multiple-time MLA. Doctor, thanks a lot for being with us. You're a doctor yourself, so there couldn't have been a better chief guest for our initiative. I also want to welcome Mr. Sanjay Srivastav, who's the DIG BSF of the Kutch sector. A big round of applause for our guests. Thank you so much, sir, for hosting us here. And once again, my congratulations to you, my salute to you and your forces for the job that they're doing. I also want to welcome Ms. Vaishali Iyer, Country Head Communications, Patient Engagement and CSR at Novartis India. Vaishali, thanks a lot for being with us. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. And last but not the least, on the far side from me, Dr. Manisha Agarwal, Head of Vitro Retina and Clinical Research Services at Dr. Shroff's Charity Eye Hospital, New Delhi, and Joint Secretary of the VRSI, which is the Vitro Retina Research Society of India. She is a treasure trove of all the knowledge that you need as far as what is needed to prevent diabetes retinopathy is concerned. But first up, of course, we have a few surprises in store for you. So first up, we're going to go across to our guest and discuss a few things as far as diabetic retinopathy is concerned. I want to kickstart with you. Ma'am, you're from the medical profession. What do you make of this initiative? Because the awareness that is often needed takes time. Do you believe that an initiative like this can do the job when it comes to the awareness, first and foremost?
First of all, I welcome Netra Suraksha campaign whole team.
Thank you.
Including Manpreet and Vaishali and Manisha and Brijesh ji, Mishra ji, the leader of media. media leader.
Yes.
I always say Bridges is media leader. So I heartily welcomes you at the border, you know. This is a border where Pakistan is nearby.
Yes.
And we are sitting now in Memorial. 1965, as you say,
Yes.
the war was Pakistan and India. And at that time that we have got this war memorial. So Netra Suraksha is very, very important. And when new Network 18 has started this campaign from the border, so I really congratulate you. And I wish best wishes, my heartiest best wishes, that it is started from BSF camp, because eyes are very important. Eh? So Netra Suraksha is very important for BSF and all. And when you say that it is against, it is a diabetic retinopathy. Diabetes is such a disease. It is a hidden enemy. You never know that you are diabetic. But when you get regular checkup, then and then only you diagnose the diabetes. And because of diabetes, so many adverse effects on the body, especially kidney and heart and everything. But the effect on the eyes, diabetic retinopathy leads to blindness. And you know, the eyes are very important for the world which we see. And for BSF it is very, very important. You always say keep eye on everywhere. So you are keeping eye on the border. So this Netra Suraksha camp, we are starting from this border area, Dharamshala. So I really congratulate you, all people, and I wish my heartiest best wishes to all of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to have your blessings in kick-starting the second edition, and Vaishali is itching to talk more about it. But I want to go across to Mr. Sanjay Srivastava first. So we've mentioned how for the defense forces, fitness is obviously of utmost importance, but vision, like anybody else, is of supreme importance, especially for a force like yourself, isn't it? Your eyes, your watchful eyes are everything. So what do you make of the significance of this message, especially for the armed forces, for your Jawans and their families? Because under this campaign, this time around, we want to protect not just the vision of the Jawans, who may need some preventive help, but their families as well. So your take.
This is excellent idea and very welcome step. And really, as ma'am has told, we welcome you at this place. Particularly, I want to emphasize that particularly serving at this place, which are very adverse for the survival. And we work on the scorching sunlight and very tough terrain. Eyes are frequently affected, and as ma'am has told us, that diabetes leads to blindness, and we are not aware of, I am suffering from the diabetes only when we are getting frequent test, and then only we are aware that we are now prone to diabetes and we have succumbed to diabetic patient. So particularly giving the duty task, and particularly this lens, eyes is very important, and our awareness about the diabetic patient, which you have told me that diabetic, every 1 or 2% in India is suffering from the diabetes, and we are not aware about we are also patient of the diabetes. And when we if we are aware about that eyes are also being affected with diabetes, and then we will be more aware, and we can protect our eyes, and we can do better service to our nation. For that purpose, we once again congratulate all the team of Netra Suraksha for coming to these places, and the message will go a long way, and we will be very aware, and we will do our duty properly and in better way also.
So, sir, you're going to tell all your Jawans here to get their eyes tested today?
Exactly. I will tell them, and get your eye tested frequently, at least 2 to 3, within 3 months. After that, you have to do it, and get yourself checked, particularly diabetes and glaucoma also.
Yes.
One of the analysis glaucoma is also, which is also very silently affect our eyes. So I will, from this place, I just give message to all my under command troops that please protect your eyes and be aware about, because without eye we are not able to perform our duty properly. Thank you.
This
Absolutely.
message is to all Indians.
All Indians.
Because
Absolutely.
this message goes from the BSF
To
commandant.
every Indian.
Yeah, that is one. That is
Why don't you give a message now that ma'am has asked you to all India?
This is, of course, I take this opportunity to give a message to all fellow citizens, and that your eyes are very precious, and without eyes you can't perform any kind of duty. So please take care of your eyes, and particularly of the diabetics. It is a silent killer because it affects your vital organ like kidney, as ma'am told us, and particularly retinas and retinopathies are, even doctors are also not prescribing about the test you should undergo. So it is a good opportunity to convey my fellow citizens to protect your eyes.
Thank you so much for that message. Ma'am, I will take that message from you too to the larger country. I want to go across to Vaishali also. Vaishali, just give me a sense of why this message, the message that both of them are giving, the message that we are talking about, is so important to Novartis. Why this message and why now?
So let me just step back and talk a little bit about Novartis's purpose. Purpose is to extend and improve people's life by reimagining medicines. But we know that medicines only does one part of the job. It's very important that every citizen in the country really is aware of what real good health means. And when we really talk of diabetes, everybody, if you really go out, if you go 15 years back, nobody knew diabetes. Today, every household has one diabetic. And when we look at this, what really happens is the establishment of diabetes, and I think Mr. Srivastav said this, that kidney and diabetes is well known. But eyes and diabetes is not well known. And that is something which is very, very important for us as a nation to protect our eyesight. And when Netra Suraksha and rather Network18 group was doing this, we thought it is no better opportunity than this to really partner with you guys to take this message of awareness forward and educate every Indian about the importance of eyes, importance of managing diabetes, and most importantly, protecting your eyes from diabetic retinopathy.
Right. We will talk a little bit more about the initiative of how we are going to reach the length and breadth of the country and how we're going to encourage not just every citizen, as they said, to get a preventive test that can, safeguard you against diabetic retinopathy, but also how we're going to conduct, several of these tests. Just stay tuned for more on that. We're coming to that in just a bit. Dr. Manisha, I want to come to you, about your personal experiences. As the Joint Secretary of VRSI as well, and of course with your own practice, you must be dealing with hundreds of patients. What is the prevalence, first of all, of diabetic retinopathy amongst patients of diabetes? How serious and severe is this issue? Where is everybody at risk? Every patient of diabetes?
So at the outset, I would like to congratulate Network18 and Novartis for taking up this great initiative. And as we all know that there are about 77 million diabetics in our country. And worldwide, probably there would be about 450 million diabetics. Now, India itself is a huge country. We have a very high population, so the number of diabetics is also very high. And as Nima Behan also mentioned that, diabetic retinopathy is also one of the complications of diabetes. And diabetic retinopathy, primarily it affects the retina, which is the back part of the eye. So if we were to understand like a camera, you have a lens and you have a film. And the film part of the camera is the retina of the eye. And diabetic retinopathy primarily affects that. Now the problem which we face as doctors and as retina specialists and as eye specialists is that till the time the diabetic patient is referred for an eye checkup, it is too late. Or by the time the patient themselves start having some symptoms of diabetic retinopathy or start losing vision, it is too late. And we feel extremely guilty, we feel extremely bad that we are not able to extend that kind of help which we could have if the patient would have arrived in our clinic a little earlier. So as you ask, if I see about 100 patients in my clinic, I think in today's time, about 70 patients would be diabetics. And that's a very high incidence.
And
out
all of them are at risk for diabetic
Yes.
retinopathy.
So any patient who's having diabetes is at risk of developing diabetic retinopathy. The problem is that diabetes itself is a silent disease, so you don't come to know that for how many years you've been having diabetes. Diabetic retinopathy in the initial stages is again a silent disease, so you don't come to know till you start losing vision. And that's where the major problem is. So what we are really wanting and requesting is that every patient who is a diabetic or every citizen of India who is a diabetic needs to come for a retina checkup or an eye checkup even without having any symptoms. And that is what is going to help us in catching them much earlier.
So you want every patient of diabetes to regularly, once a year, get their diabetic retinopathy preventative test done, which will figure out whether they're at risk because there are no symptoms, or by the time you feel the symptom, which is loss of vision, it is already too late. Can I get an understanding, Dr. Manisha, that why is it so hard to get the patients to go for this test? Is it that they don't want to do it because they don't feel any symptoms just yet? Is it because of the cost involved? What are the roadblocks here?
So हम हिंदुस्तानियों को आदत है डॉक्टर के पास क्यों जाए जब तक कुछ प्रॉब्लम ना हो.
Right.
तो वैसे ही किसी आँख के डॉक्टर के पास क्यों जाएं जब तक देखने में कोई प्रॉब्लम ना हो. सो हम लोग कितना भी बोलते रहेंगे, पेशेंट तो तभी आएगा जब उसे कुछ प्रॉब्लम होएगी. सो एक तो प्रॉब्लम हमारे संग खुद है कि जो पेशेंट्स हैं जब तक कि उनकी विजन में प्रॉब्लम नहीं होएगी, चाहे उनके डायबिटोलॉजिस्ट या फिजिशियन उनको कितनी भी दफ़ा बोल दें, वो नहीं आने वाले हैं. सो दैट इज़ अ लैक ऑफ अवेयरनेस, आई वुड से. And the second thing is that, as we all know, and ma'am also mentioned, that diabetes is a multi-system disorder. It's affecting your heart, it's affecting your nerves, it's affecting kidneys. But we have BSF Jawans sitting here, and we always say, keep an eye on your enemy. You don't say you keep a heart on your enemy, you know. So I think out of all the organs, eye is the most important.
Yes.
You have to keep an eye on your time, you have to keep an eye on your borders. You have to keep an eye on your enemy, and the same way you have to keep an eye on the eye itself.
Yes.
So that is the most important thing. And the problem, again, is with both sides. It's the diabetologist and physicians not referring them because they don't realize the importance of the vision, and the patient themselves don't come to us till they don't start losing vision.
I think I couldn't have thanked Dr. Manisha on a better note. You have to keep an eye on all the important things in life, and therefore it is important to keep an eye on your eye health too, especially if you are a patient of diabetes. I would request all of you to be with me because now is the part that I wanted to, have our viewers and our audiences take a look at, because this is the one that is the practical side of the awareness campaign that we're doing with Novartis, which is the actual eye test setup. So I want to request, on the other side of our setup here at the Bsn War Memorial, in the beautiful run of Kutch near Bhuj, we've got our fantastic machine which is going to do these tests across the country. So we're going to take these machines to the length and breadth of the country, especially to our Jawans and their families. And we're going to make sure that they not only get their own test, but we also test the eyes and the vision of their families as well. So there's going to be thousands and thousands of tests done. So I just want to quickly request the flag off for this eye testing. Shri Sanjay Avinash, Commandant, 74 Battalion, BSF, has kindly graced us with his presence, and he's on hand to inaugurate our eye testing. There you see it. Sir, if I can request you to please inaugurate our eye testing machine by cutting the ribbon. A big round of applause. Our eye testing machines are now formally inaugurated, and we're going to conduct a couple of tests as well. Sanjay Avinashji, I request you to just speak a couple of words before we get our first test underway. If we can have someone hand over a mic to Sanjay Avinash, and our first tests
This
are already
really is a
getting
great
underway.
initiative by Network18 for this diabetic care, as all of you know, and we have been told here that in India, over 70 million people are having this problem of diabetes. This initiative by Network 18 is really going to help us, and is basically to create awareness among the people with diabetes and the people who has to avoid things, how to avoid these things, and how to manage your diabetes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Shri Sanjay Avinash, Commandant, 74 Battalion, BSF. And with that, I now request Shri Yashveer Huda, Officiating Commandant, 3rd Battalion, BSF, to start doing his eye test. And the eye test for Mr. Huda is now underway. He's our very first tester as far as these machines are concerned. This is a way for us to take that message of this eye test, which barely takes a few minutes really, and is going to be of great importance to you and your family to ensure that you don't suffer from diabetic retinopathy. And we also have, okay, so that eye test is now underway. Just remember that this test takes only a few minutes, but can actually prevent blindness. So it is important to understand that this is a preventative test that needs to be done every few months according to what your doctor is telling you, but do not delay it, do not procrastinate on it just because you're not having any symptoms. As the doctors on our panel have just explained, you will not feel any symptoms till it is already too late. And now, Shri Saurabh Singh, IPS Superintendent of Police, Kutch, is also getting his eye test done. Thank you so much, Saurabh Singh, for coming here and supporting this initiative. So that's the second eye test of the second edition of Netra Suraksha, India Against Diabetes, in association with Novartis. I thank Shri Sanjay Avinash, Shri Yashveer Huda and Shri Saurabh Singh one more time for kick-starting and teeing off really our eye testing as far as the second edition of Netra Suraksha, India Against Diabetes, in association with Novartis, is concerned. And on that note, I also want to go across to my colleagues, our reporters joining us from Delhi and Bengaluru and Chennai and more cities. But first up, let's go across to Delhi.
Well, Shivani, thank you so much for bringing us this great cause, and kudos to Network 18 as well for making people aware about the diabetic retinopathy. So we are joined by Dr. Mahipal Sachdev, who is a Padma Shri as well. We'll take a couple of questions from him. Sir, thank you so much for being a part of this particular cause. Also, sir, being a doctor yourself, if we talk about the impact of diabetic retinopathy, how much do you think that the vision is impacted? Is it the full percentage, 100% is the partial vision is lost, or is it even curable, or at what stage it is curable from your end, sir?
Okay, thank you very much. Indeed a pleasure to be here. I think it's a great initiative as regards Netra Suraksha, because people are not very much aware about the involvement of the eyes in cases of diabetes. As we all know that India is the diabetic capital of the world, diabetic retinopathy, if given a long enough time in an individual, diabetic retinopathy will tend to happen. That means the retina, which is the light sensitive part of the eye from which the light perception goes on to the brain, that starts getting affected because of what is known as diabetic retinopathy. And this primarily happens because of changes in the blood vessels and the small capillaries within the retina, because they become leaky and they pour out proteins and fluid, as also new vessels are formed which are fragile and they bleed. So this sum total is called as diabetic retinopathy. Now, if you look at people more than 50% of the age, 50 years of age, about 17% of them will be suffering from diabetic retinopathy. This is overall. And if you look at what is known as vision threatening diabetic retinopathy, that means the diabetic retinopathy from the early stage, which is called as non-proliferative diabetic retinopathy, that means that the vessels have not started to proliferate. goes on to proliferative diabetic retinopathy, where you have hemorrhage and you have bleeds, etc., that would be close to about 4%. So 4% of the population above 50 years of age in India, this is a survey as recent as 2015 to 2019, would have vision threatening diabetic retinopathy. Now the second question that you asked me is that is it curable? Now it is preventable is the thing that I will wish to say, because if you look at vision threatening diabetic retinopathy, even in the most advanced countries in the world, that is even if you look at US, that is the leading cause of blindness. That means that if the intervention is delayed, then under those circumstances you could have, the patient could have irreversible vision loss. So there have to be an early detection, and that is where such programs help, because people need to know that if you have diabetes, you could have a silent disease going on which is called as diabetic retinopathy. If not treated in time, then it can lead to severe consequences which can lead to blindness, which could be irreversible. So there are several treatments. The mainstay of the treatment is preventive. That means that you should control your diabetes, your HbA1c should be good, your blood pressure should be well under control, your lipid profile should be under control. Alcohol and tobacco, these cause problems, lifestyle, obesity, etc. So these are other things that need to be controlled. So if you keep them under control, the progress or the coming in of diabetic retinopathy can be delayed. Point number 2, if you start to have diabetic retinopathy, then we have to have a much closer follow-up. Actually, a person with diabetes should have a follow-up every year. You should dilate. What you say is we put medicine in the eye, dilate the pupil and look at the back part of the eye, which is called as the retina. And this should be reduced to every 6 months or even 3 months. And then treatment could consist of either laser photocoagulation, that means that we burn non-sensitive area of the retina, or we give injections within the eye which reduce the swelling, as also which reduce the new vessel formation.
Okay. Also, sir, we have another question as well for you. Being a doctor yourself, since you have the insider view of how the patients, they come up, do you think that there is resistance? Okay. So, Shivani, this is the reaction which has come from Dr. Mahipal, and these are the reaction. This is what he has told, that is it curable or not? Over to you, Shivani.
I welcome everyone to Network 18's initiative, Netra Suraksha, India Against Diabetes. Once again, thanks a lot for joining us for the second edition, which is going to be bigger and grander. This is our largest initiative to protect India's vision, to protect the vision of Indians from diabetic retinopathy, which, quite like diabetes, which everyone knows about, can also be a silent disease. So just like diabetes is called a silent killer, its associated disease, which affects the eyes, the vision, the retina, diabetic retinopathy, can also be a silent disease. It can creep up on you before you realize, before you have any symptoms. You will feel everything is fine, but it isn't. And by the time you have symptoms, it could be too late already. That is why prevention is truly the cure as far as diabetic retinopathy is concerned. And with Netra Suraksha, the second edition, we're bringing you that message. This season, we're going to take our preventive tests all across the country, the length and breadth of the country. And the special message this time is for the Jawans and their families. In fact, we are joining you today from the Bsn War Memorial, just a few kilometers away from the India-Pakistan international border at the beautiful run of Kutch. And I have with me not just Dr. Neemaben Acharya, who's our chief guest, the first woman speaker of the Gujarat Assembly. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being with us. I also have with us DIG BSF Kutch Sector, Dr. Sanjay Srivastav. Dr. Neemaben, I want to come to you first up. How do you feel that people can be motivated to take more care of their eyes? As I mentioned, and as you're aware, you're from the medical background yourself. It is sometimes difficult to motivate people to go for a test when they're not feeling anything.
Yeah.
But that is exactly the problem here.
I will tell that prevention is better than cure.
Right.
This all knows. And our Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi ji, so many else came,
Yes.
different. But he has also put new scheme, that is Niramaya Health Scheme. And Niramaya Health Scheme, every Friday, government is organizing campaign for routine checkup. They get cholesterol, blood pressure, diabetes, eye checkup, all checkup. And then we diagnose that the patient is suffering from. First time the person knows that he is suffering from some disease. So like that, diabetes is a curable, not completely curable.
Right.
It requires long-term treatment. It is a chronic disease, but timely taken the treatment will prevent the complication of diabetes.
Yes,
And
yes.
most important complication, the camp is organized, Netra Suraksha, for diabetic retinopathy and eye checkup.
So,
So
ma'am,
I
these
give my message to all
Yeah.
that, especially women,
Yes.
being a woman, I give my message because woman is doing selfless service to society. They neglect their health. We always say, priority, her health is not priority for her. So I say all the women, they should get regular checkup of their health and they should take care of health because they are taking care of whole society. So first, most important, they should take their care of health.
A big round of applause for that message from Dr. Nima Ben. But Nima Ben, can I get a commitment from you? These every Friday, these camps that you're organizing, preventive camps, you will also include a diabetic retinopathy test in that?
Yes, sure. Eye checkup is there.
Okay.
So we can have a eye checkup. Everybody can get eye checkup in that Friday camp, Niramaya Health Scheme.
Wonderful. So we have our commitment from the Speaker of the Gujarat Assembly to add diabetic retinopathy eventually at these camps so that
Yes.
not just the woman of the household, but obviously the entire family and the Jawans can take care of their eye health, especially if you're diabetic. It's very important, if you are a patient of diabetes, to regularly go for these tests. And Sanjay sir, I'm coming to you. This time around, we want to take the message to your Jawans because they keep an eye on the enemy. They keep an eye on our borders. And it's important as for you as a DIG, for us, and for the larger community to keep an eye on their eye and their vision. How important do you think this message can be for your Jawans?
Yeah, this campaign is not only important for my Jawan, but it is also important for my family also. Particularly, as Nima ma'am has mentioned, that ladies who does selfless service and doesn't look after herself. So for them also it is very important. Particularly in our condition, when our Jawans are far away from their household, from their native place, they are not with their family, and all course of life, particularly all responsibility are being discharged by our family lady wife. So for them also, if I want to give them message, please take care of your eyes and go for the preventive test also. And because prevention is the better than cure, as everybody has mentioned, and awareness, I want to tell them that you should not only aware yourself also, but your child also, because they are the future citizens, and they may also fall about this silent disease. So this is very important, particularly for our families members. And with this campaign, I am thankful to News 18 for making them aware. And I am sure that whenever I will be interacting my families in my campus and to my Jawans who are more than 50 years or likely to be completing the 50 years, so I will make them aware and get your eyes tested for the diabetic retinopathy. And at this stage, I want to convey to the News 18 also, please make aware also people about the glaucoma also. Glaucoma is also very dangerous, and it is also slowly takes the eyesight and vision loss to the patients. And we once again thanks, and I am committed that in this coming days, all the officers and I myself also make aware all my troops, particularly to family members also, to get your test frequently done, particularly eye retina test, diabetic retinopathy.
Absolutely. So we've got the Jawans here. Can I get a yes that everybody will get their test done? Will you get your test done? Louder. और जोर से. और अपनी सब families को भी लेके जाएंगे? All right, great. So this is, of course, what we're hoping to achieve. Dr. Manisha, patient willingness is one of the reasons why this is a big challenge, isn't it? Because we were mentioning, patients don't really feel anything as far as their retina is concerned. By the time they begin to feel that the vision is not all right, it is already too late. Am I right? There's no way to reverse that damage?
Absolutely. So I think the major problem that we face in diabetic retinopathy entire treatment process for a patient is that initially when the early stages are there of diabetic retinopathy, it is totally asymptomatic. It may be presenting with as simple as a change of glass. And that is why people feel that they just walk into an optical shop and they get a new pair of glasses and they're done with. But what is important in detecting diabetic retinopathy at an early stage is that these changes are irreversible. So if you are able to control them at an early stage, you absolutely can avoid a very severe loss of vision secondary to diabetic retinopathy. And therefore, it is very important that each and every diabetic understands this and reaches on time for the evaluation of their retina.
So could you give me a sense, let's say a 50-year-old comes to you, she or he is diabetic, how often would you recommend this test for them?
So I would just like to make a few corrections in that. One is the time of doing your first examination of the retina. I think it's very important that the day you realize that you are a diabetic, please get your retina checked. Okay, that's a very important thing I want everybody to understand. And the reason being that it's a silent disease. You may have been a diabetic for last 3 years, 5 years, and you did not come to know. So you may be having diabetic retinopathy, which you have not realized. So please get your retina checked, your eyes checked after adequate dilatation for diabetic retinopathy the day you are diagnosed with diabetes. As far as what is the frequency of the test is concerned, well, it is not a hard and fast rule that you have to do it once a year or twice a year. It depends that what is the stage of diabetic retinopathy at your baseline examination. And based on that, your doctor is going to recommend you need to come back after 3 months, 6 months or 1 year. But if you have absolutely no evidence of diabetic retinopathy, please don't sit back at home. Then you surely need one checkup a year.
Okay. But give me a sense, like I was mentioning, and I can understand, a lot of people don't go for this test because it's a preventive test. It's a test to figure out if, everything is okay. People don't like to get those tests done. किसी को भी अच्छा नहीं लगता कि सिर्फ ये पता करने के लिए कि मेरे में कुछ प्रॉब्लम है, उसके लिए मैं हॉस्पिटल जाऊँ और टेस्ट कराऊँ. जब तक कुछ दिक्कत नहीं होती, लोग हॉस्पिटल जाते थे. ये ह्यूमन नेचर है. तो पेशेंट विलिंगनेस इज एन इशू. But agar ye test by chance insurance cover kar le, is cost also an issue? Is that also a hesitation? Do insurance, health insurance, medical insurance cover such tests? And will it help if they do?
So I'm very happy that you've raised this question, and I think on behalf of Vitreoretina Society of India, we have really been working hard with all the insurance companies because they have been avoiding giving an insurance coverage based on that it is a chronic disease, it is age-related, but that's not the case today. And majority, I would say at least 95% of the insurance companies, they are now giving a coverage, and it is very much there mentioned in their recently published guidelines that they cannot deny an insurance coverage for diabetes or diabetic retinopathy. So I really don't think if you have a medical insurance, the cost is going to be an issue.
All right, that's good to know. I also want to go across to some of our other guests joining us. My colleague Purnima is in fact with us with a special guest. Purnima, over to you. Tell us more of what the medical professionals from the field are telling you about diabetic retinopathy and, the ways to deal with it for patients and also to bring about more awareness.
Well, Shivani, thank you so much. It's a great initiative and it's the need of the hour, which is why, Dr. Vijay Vishwanathan joining us says that it's a silent killer, as many have been pointing out, and 75% of those who are diabetic, they also may in some form have diabetic retinopathy. Take us through how we can make this situation better together.
Yeah, I think the Research Society for Study of Diabetes in India, RSSDI, is doing a lot of work on research and creating awareness about prevention of diabetes and its complications. As you rightly said, diabetes affects many parts of the body, and one of the parts that affects the retina in the eye. And it is very, very silent, as you said. People do not realize that they can have retinopathy, which is a leading cause of blindness. After cataract, it is the leading cause of blindness. People don't realize that. When you ask somebody with diabetes to undergo an eye examination, they say they have undergone a specs examination some 2 weeks ago. So they are hesitant to undergo a retina. A retina examination consists of a special camera, which is now kept even in the office of a general practitioner. So I think the initiative by Network18 is very good. RSSDI has also been doing activity. So many such organizations join together, we can increase the awareness about the silent killer complications in diabetes. Like kidney failure is silent, eye blindness is very silent, leg amputation is very silent. You won't know that you are likely to get these complications until you get it.
Has the awareness level increased in the recent past? Because you've been interacting with many patients. Has the awareness level increased just yet?
It has increased some 31 years ago when I started practice. There were very few clinics for diabetes. Today we have clinics for diabetes all over the country. And all of them are telling their patients about foot care, heart, kidney and eyes also. So the awareness is definitely increased, but still we have a long way to go. We have to educate and create awareness about eye complication, and that's exactly what is happening today.
Right. So this initiative is the need of the hour, and many people are slowly able to understand, and there is an increase in awareness level is what Dr. Vijay is saying. Back to you, Shivani. Dr. Vijay is saying. Back to you, Shivani.
Thank you so much, Purnima, and thank you so much, Dr. Vijay, for joining us and giving us your message. And as part of the second edition of Netra Suraksha, India Against Diabetes, in association with Novartis, this time around, we're going to actually make it easier for you to get that test, which could prevent blindness if you are a patient of diabetes. So we're going to take across the machine that's going to come up on your screen right now. Those eye tests are currently taking place where we are joining you from this very special location, the Bsn War Memorial at the run of Kutch. And those eye tests are going to be conducted across the length and breadth of the country, especially for our Jawans and their families. But of course, with that, we want to give you a message that if you are a patient of diabetes, as our doctors are saying, when you realize that you have diabetes, you have to go and get that test done. And those tests are happening thanks to Radical Health. I have Rito Maitra, co-founder of Radical Health, joining us. Thank you so much, Rito. Just give me a sense, what does that machine exactly do? Don't be too technical, but what does that machine exactly do? How much is it able to tell you about a person's retina health? And how old is this technology? When did this first come about?
First of all, thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure. So the machine that you're seeing on the screen right now is called a fundus camera that takes an image of the retina. So that you can imagine is analogous to taking an X-ray of your chest. Now, just because you take the image doesn't mean you have the answers. You need a retina specialist like Dr. Agarwal to be able to read the X-ray, or in this case, read the retinal image and tell you what's wrong with it. What Radical Health builds and what we aim to propagate is the ability to read that image using artificial intelligence, so that you can, so that every single image that is read is produces a result right then and there, without having the need to have a retina specialist at every corner of the country.
So even without going to an actual doctor, your results, your machine's results will tell you if you are showing symptoms, if you are at risk, if you are at greater risk, or everything is okay. Am I right?
Absolutely, yes.
So it gives you a checkup of your retina health, basically.
Yeah,
and how much time does that eye test take per person?
So it takes roughly about a minute.
Just a minute to ensure your eye health. Nima Ben, सिर्फ 1 मिनट का काम है. और अब तो कोई excuse नहीं है कि कोई जाके.
This is the X-ray of your eye.
Right.
In 1 minute, you know that how you are suffering, what is the damage in your eyes.
Right.
1 minute. And you can get the treatment, you can prevent the further complications.
Absolutely. Just 1 minute of your time to prevent what could potentially be blindness due to diabetic retinopathy. I don't think that you need a greater incentive to go and get that test done if you are at risk. But Ritu, I also want to ask you, how do we scale this up? How do we make it, how prevalent is this test? For example, in my local neighborhood hospital, will I be able to get this test? Or do I have to go to some special hospitals for it? And how do you plan to scale this up so that its access becomes more easy?
Right. So that's essentially what we are working on right now. So there is no special infrastructure required. This is something that can be set up anywhere. There are diabetologists, family physicians, primary care clinics, government setups, district hospitals, PHCs. This is something that can be done anywhere and everywhere and for everybody. So, and we hope that we will be able to make this so proliferative that the age-old, the holy grail of medicine has been that the patients come too late to the hospital. By putting this technology at all of these different places, we can reach the patient, and therefore that entire game can be reversed. So that's the idea with which we are working.
So I'm just wondering, Neema Ben talked about the Friday camps. So I think Neema Ben, ये वाली machines भी Friday camps में होनी चाहिए गुजरात में.
We will arrange.
Thank you.
Arrange.
So
Sure.
Rito and Neema Ben will be working out the details for them. Let's start from Gujarat that has hosted us in this beautiful run of Kutch. Vaishali, I want to come to you now. From Novartis, this has been very close to you and to Novartis. But I think it's important when I hear everybody, it makes you realize that you need a lot of hands on board, isn't it?
Yes.
It's not just about what the media can do or what you can do. A lot of people need to come together to make this work.
Yes, so thank you, Shivani, but I'll respond this in three parts. Okay, so first part is I would like to laud the efforts of the government and the state government of Gujarat, basically to prioritize health and thereby even screening of the eye. So I think that's very, very important. So thank you so much for that. So that's my first point. The second piece is, if I do just step back and talk a little bit about Novartis. So Novartis is a 250-year-old company. We have a very strong cardiovascular, renal, metabolic, and ophthalmology portfolio. Coming to India, we are there in India since its independence, which is 1947. So very, very long time. And we've been partnering with the healthcare system in India to improve the nation's health. So across our portfolio. So I think given that commitment, we believe that it's not only innovations that we bring to fore, but also other aspects like screening, diagnosis, awareness. These are factors which are going to really improve the nation's health. And therefore, that's coming to the third point of partnerships. And we know we can't do it alone.
Yeah.
And therefore, we need to partner with multiple stakeholders. So if you really look at starting with the government, of course, the second piece is talking with medical bodies like VRSI and RSSDI, who would actually eventually treat the patients. We also need media houses like Network18, who would actually take the message of awareness around diabetes and our health to the larger population. And I would fail in my duty if I really don't thank the BSF as well as the Indian Army, who've taken this as a mantle to really make the country Netra Suraksha. So I think it's a more holistic piece, more than just one person doing its job. But we all will fail, if each and every individual or citizen of the country doesn't really take this up upon themselves to really go and get their eyes tested, first for diabetes and then for diabetic retinopathy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to thank all of our guests who have joined us on the panel. Dr. Neema Ben Acharya, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence and for the enthusiasm and the commitment that you've shown to this cause. Thank you so much. Can I have a big round of applause for our chief guest for Netra Suraksha, second edition. And of course, this is just going to be the start. The message will keep on rolling. I do want to thank Vaishali Iyer as well, Rito Maitra and Dr. Manisha Agarwal as well. Mr. Sanjay Srivastav, who was with us earlier, DIG BSF. I thank the BSF for hosting us at this beautiful Bsn War Memorial at the Run of Kutch one more time, and with the message of courage, duty, service that the BSF has always upheld. And with that, we hope that all of the Jawans will take advantage of the Netra Suraksha eye testing that will happen across the country now. So please be seated in the audience as we bring in our cultural performance. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us. Did it very well. You were so good. Bhaiya.